Lenovo and HP have been battling in the laptop versus since laptops have been around now, and one of the latest arrivals to that battle is the Lenovo Legion 5 and the HP counterpart, the OMEN 15 2020 edition. Both laptops are similar in specs and capabilities, yet offer very different experiences, which is why it can be hard to pick between the two. So let me break it down. First off, specs. The most important part of a laptop is always going to be its hardware, so the specifications on each are very important to understand. First off, let's look at the similarities. Both the Lenovo Legion 5 and the HP OMEN 15 have an AMD Ryzen 7 4800H CPU, so that's 8 cores and base clock speed of 2.9 GHz. Though it can be clocked up to 4.2 GHz, but I personally wouldn't recommend overclocking unless you want to ruin your laptop's lifespan. For reference sake, this Ryzen CPU is about 30% faster than any of your Intel Core i7 CPUs, which makes a lot of sense considering it is a brand new CPU after all. But perhaps the most impressive part of it all has to be that both laptops have 8 cores, which on a laptop is going to be essential when you want to multitask between browsing the internet and playing taxing games like Overwatch. The 2.9 GHz processing speed is pretty decent and will certainly let you play any game you want at fairly high settings. I wouldn't personally bother with max settings because this is just a laptop, so it does only have a 1080p screen. There's no 4K support on either. Thankfully though, they do feature above 120Hz screens, so you will be able to really enjoy those fast-paced FPS and racing type games. However, the similarities stop there because, although they do have the same 16GB DDR4 RAM, the OMEN actually takes the lead somewhat. You see, on the Legion, you get a 512GB SSD card, which frankly isn't all that good and probably isn't enough if you're going to be downloading a lot of large games. That SSD is going to get filled up real fast and actually slow the performance of the laptop a little. The OMEN, on the other hand, has double that with a 1TB SSD card. Now, I really think that should be a minimum at the price tag you're paying for these laptops, which for those of you that don't know, both sit roughly around $1,500. This basically means that over time, the OMEN 15 will perform a slight bit better. That is assuming you don't download all your games to an external hard drive. You also gotta factor in the GPU as well in this because both laptops do actually have pretty similar graphics cards. However, OMEN just nabs the lead again here with its 6GB GTX 1660 Ti. The Legion went for a cheaper GPU, that being the 4GB GTX 1650 Ti, which is an older model and also has 2GB less graphical RAM. What this means in plain terms is that the OMEN's slightly superior graphics card will be able to max out more and include more in-game graphical details on the screen. So, to conclude on specs, both laptops offer practically the same performance. However, the OMEN did just about manage to nab the lead with its far superior SSD and slightly better graphics card. But how did the laptops compare outside of the realm of specs? A laptop is a fully packaged PC essentially, and as such, things like the screen, the speakers, battery life, and all that simple stuff account to its overall value as well. First and most importantly is the battery, because there's no point having an on-the-go gaming device if you can't game on the go. Both laptops claim to do about 9 to 10 hours of general stuff before needing to be plugged in, but that isn't the case in all honesty. The OMEN 15 lasted an impressive average of 7 hours when doing light stuff, but when actually playing games at consistent mid-level performance, it only lasted an hour, which is really not good. The Legion's battery was even worse though. When just lightly browsing and doing other stuff, the battery lasted a fair 4 hours, but when gaming, it barely lasted an hour. It's fair to say that both laptops lack any real major battery performance, but it is also clear that the OMEN did seem to last a fair bit longer when doing stuff outside of gaming, which is why it's better in that aspect. Arguably, the second most important part of a good gaming laptop is the screen. It's difficult to decide with this one because both screens are vertically the exact same, though the Legion does beat the OMEN a little with some of the finer details. They are both 1080p screens that have a max refresh rate of up to 144Hz. Both have FreeSync to stop screen tearing, however FreeSync only goes up to a maximum of 60Hz on the OMEN, whereas the Legion has support up to 120Hz. This may not sound like a big deal, but what this means is that if you want to play games above 60Hz on the OMEN, then you will experience some screen tearing and stuttering, which is never nice. With overdrive disabled, the Legion also has a response time of around 5 milliseconds, which is 2 milliseconds faster than the OMEN with a hefty 7 millisecond response time. Aside from that though, screens are all too similar to critique, seeing as both had the same color gamut and same maximum brightness levels. The keyboards also fall the same way, with the exception that the Legion is more focused on making a more tactile and ergonomic keyboard, while the OMEN is more trackpad oriented. As for the speakers, well, laptop speakers are never good, so there's not much to say other than the OMEN speakers can get a little louder, but also lack the bass that the Legion has. So, what laptop is the better laptop? Well, I think now is an excellent time to consider the price of both devices. The Lenovo Legion 5 is cheaper at $1,340, while the OMEN is the more expensive counterpart at $1,600. That is a $300 difference, which I would argue isn't all that justifiable considering that the OMEN just doesn't offer enough. Sure, the OMEN has a slightly better graphics card and double the SSD, but should that amount to $300? Probably not. Not only that, but the Legion 5 actually beats the OMEN in a few ways, like with the better battery life and slightly better screen. That's not to say that the OMEN isn't worth it though, because if you like it for its sleek aesthetic, then sure, $300 is worth it. But in terms of straight up hardware and capabilities, I just think the Legion 5 is better value. Anyway, what laptop do you think is better? Let me know in the comments below and like and subscribe.